Ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Brisker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
We've made it to December, and this is when it all goes down. Your Bears begin the month owning the number one seed in the NFC, a remarkable accomplishment entering Week 14, and the first of two showdowns in 3 weeks with the Green Bay Packers just ahead. The Bears won their 5th road game. They finished the sweep of the NFC East, taking down the defending world champion Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field, now 9-3 for the first time since 2010. We discussed all of that and look ahead to the Packers with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak here on episode 191 of the Bears Etc. podcast, and it's brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Like every Monday, we visit with head coach Ben Johnson, and we hope everyone enjoyed a healthy, happy Thanksgiving with family and friends. Tom, we had a good time in Philadelphia. That was something to watch as two guys who love the running game and you being in the trenches for your entire life. That had to make you smile and make you feel very excited about what's ahead for the Chicago Bears, because getting 280 is not something that happens very often in the National Football League, and it signifies a dominance that was really put forth on the Philadelphia Eagles front.
Yeah, you know, with a couple days off, it gives you a lot of chance to think about what's been happening. And I was thinking about when they hired Ben Johnson, what he said at the podium. And then he put together a staff that we got to get to know and kind of understand a little bit about their background. But then they got all the players together, started OTAs, went into training camp, and now here we are at this part of the regular season. You think of the overall big picture improvement from the coaching staff getting to know each other, from the installation of the offense and the defense, to the individual hands-on approach that every one of these assistant coaches had throughout the course of the season, and how impressive that display of team football was last Friday. It just really is so impressive in so many different ways and directions that it's really exciting to think what the future can offer here.
Tom, I'm glad you had time to dwell on it, because in the moment you're not thinking. You went to Packer week by the third quarter. So, but twice now in a month, which they did in Cincinnati and now did it again, third time this year, over 200 yards. I was really hoping they'd get to 300. It just that number just stuns me. You know, but they were that close. And so to watch it, I watched it on the plane, and I know you waited to watch it. It was like beautiful pictures, poetry, all of this movement and just excellence in blocking, backside, front side, in the gaps, receivers, you name it. And I discussed that with Ben a little bit. How did you take it when you slowed everything down and watched the execution?
Everybody had a positive account in the running game. You can keep the passing game exclusive, because when you talk about the running game, the instrumental part that everybody has in order to run one play successful, let alone would they have 47 runs in the game?
Yep.
So you talk about 47 different designed runs, and then everybody's assignment can, be from a double team to a specific distraction. And I just think it was so, to an ex-offensive lineman, it's like poetry in motion. It really is, because you take everything into consideration, how long it takes to develop perfection on one play, let alone that many plays and the environment that they were in. It was just a really fun game to go back and watch, and I suggest that if you're a real fan of offensive line play, go back and watch that game again, and you can really learn a lot about where this team is at right now.
Every sip of Blue Moon's Belgian-style wheat ale, crafted with Valencia orange peel and coriander, is a winning drive for your taste buds. When you choose a Blue Moon, everything becomes brighter, just like the scoreboard after a Bears touchdown. Celebrate responsibly, Chicago. On top of that, you had 85 snaps in the game. Cole Kmet earlier Monday on a YouTube or on a Zoom call with the media indicated that, you could feel the defenders of Philadelphia not necessarily frustrated, but they definitely were tired. And you could feel the difference in the contact. You could feel the difference off the ball.
Well, you and I talked about it in the podcast a week ago, and you're saying, okay, what's the formula of attack against a team that's led by dominant defensive tackles in the NFL, like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter? And we said, if you can get multiple play drives consecutively, you can wear these guys down to the point where they have to be supplemented and, they start being a part of rotation. And so what it was, it 11, 15, 11, the first three drives of the Bears, or two 11s and a 15, something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly was the formula for success, was having those double-digit drives early in the game, and that will factor in the conditioning and the mentality of defenses. And with all due respect to defenses, dominant defenses are built, Jeff, mentally for 3 and outs. And then when you start getting them into 6 and 7 and 10 and 11 and 15 plays, it takes a toll on them, because the defensive backs are not interchangeable. They're going to stay in there every play. Sometimes there may be a linebacker in there that you can take in and out depending upon the defensive back formation. And then the defensive line has become a rotational position. But when you have that type of time-consuming drives, it takes a toll on them.
How about mentally as well as physically, especially because the Bears, with all that motion, creating a shell game of sorts, eyes are going all over the place. It forces discipline thinking. But again, if you think you're beat, so you got to trust your instincts, but you might be barking up the wrong tree with the way these guys are motioning and whatnot. How do you feel about that aspect of it?
I think it's a key ingredient. If you have a play one play, for example, we'll take DJ Moore. They put him in the backfield. He went after the ball was snapped. He went to his right, and he was there to create hesitation in Jalen Phillips. Now, if you create hesitation in the mind of a defensive player, you're winning. And so DJ Moore, an undersized wide receiver, doesn't have to block a big defensive pass rushing end like that. They just need to get his attention focused in the opposite direction of the point of attack. Then the whole offensive line wiped out the first and second level of the defense, and DeAndre Swift was off to the races with a great backside block by Roma Dunze. So everything that we've heard about since Ben has been hired, you could see it all in that one play.
I thought this was interesting, too, because Ben, you bring in a coach like that, the first thing people say, and I know many of my friends, oh, my God, the Bears are going to have an aerial show. This is great for Caleb. This is great. This is great for the receivers. We got weapons all over. Ben really loves the running game. And I've been saying it all year. If you go deeper into the statistics with the Lions, yes, they had 2 great backs in Montgomery and Gibbs, and they've got all the pieces, but by and large, he loves running the football, and it's going to lean towards a higher percentage of runs more than most in the National Football League. And when you get inside the 30 and inside the red zone, he likes running the football to set up the pass. So this is a guy who appreciates both phases and really goes into it. And I thought it was interesting that Cole said this on Monday. He said, it's Ben that's installing the run game each week, and he goes, he makes everyone want to be involved in it. And it's all predicated on physicality and finish, and he gets everybody fired up, and it trickles to the tight ends, the wide receivers, obviously the offensive linemen.
You have to run. It's mandatory. It's not something that's suggested to you when you get the job as being a head coach. It's mandatory to be able to run the ball. And you know who appreciates the running game most of all? The defense. Because Cole can say all this about all the guys that want to have a part in the running game, which they all do. And Ben told us that when he said no block, no rock. But, Jeff, when you're talking about the time of consumption and it results in a score by the offense and the defense is sitting over on the sideline just getting fresher and hungrier, then they have all this energy to unleash the first time they get on the field. And you look at it, I think the first drive, Philly had 6 and out, and then they did the same the second. The second play of each of their first 2 drives were a false start. So it's as much as we want to sit here and talk about the running game, it's the whole other side of the ball that enjoys it as much as anybody.
Hey, Bears fans, gear up at the Pro Shops at Soldier Field, your home for officially licensed jerseys, headwear, hoodies, and more. Open daily near the Veterans Memorial Water Wall. The Pro Shops at Soldier Field, a Fanatics experience. All right, we'll step away from our conversation and listen in to the head coach, Ben Johnson. All right, thanks again, Ben. How you feeling?
I got a little sickness here that I'm working through, but other than that, pretty good.
That time of year. That's because you're working too hard.
No, not a chance.
Quite the game in Philly. Can you summarize what you liked, what you didn't like?
Yeah, I thought the guys came out and they competed hard throughout that game. We really embraced that environment. You know, those guys knew what we're walking into. It's a hostile crowd. You know, a little bit different weather conditions than what we played in. The weather, the wind was a huge factor in that game. And yet we maintained our poise really throughout. And so that was a good thing to see. I thought we started fast as a team. You know, offensively, first 3 drives, I think we had 37 plays and 10 points. And defense, really, that whole first half, 83 yards, I believe, and only 3 points given up. And so that was really good to see. Just being able to, we almost felt like you could deflate the crowd a little bit because those guys are so powerful. Those fans are. They're really something else, and so the fact that we were able to negate them to a degree was huge for us. And then the second half, we were able to finish it off in the fourth quarter. So the 2 takeaways were huge for us on defense. I want to say our defense ended up with 4 3-and-outs as well, and so they played really, really well. I thought the critical downs played a huge part of this game, where on offense we were close to 60% on third down, and defense was really at 25%. So some really good things there, and we continue to get better in the red zone. You know, I feel like we sharpen up our execution on one of those drives. We're going to end up with 3 touchdowns in the red zone instead of the 2 that we had, and in defense, I think went 1 for 2. The 2-point play down there was huge for us, just to make sure it stayed a 2-score game instead of becoming a 1-score game there late in the game. And then I'll say this about special teams. It's really come on. I know we kind of took a lump there against Cincinnati a few weeks ago, and those guys have responded the right way as far as I'm concerned. You know, kickoff has really become a strong weapon for us. I feel like we're consistently pinning the opponent inside the 30. Cairo's doing a great job kicking it. Our protection units are doing really good, and I think we're going to have to continue to lean into that phase with the weather being what it's going to be the next month or so.
Game balls to the entire offensive line after the game, and with Jonah Jackson back home, I know that meant a lot to him. It was the first time he actually played in a game in Philadelphia, that he was active, and he gave the post-game speech and a game ball to Nashawn Wright, arguably the best story of an individual player this season, and maybe one of the best stories in the NFL.
Yeah, he's done a tremendous job. A lot of credit to Al Harris for not only getting him into the building here with his relationship with him, but also continuing to develop him. And, you know, Shawnee, I think he's playing at a super high level, very confident right now. You know, he's so long. He's 6'4", and some of these balls on the sideline, he just, you know, there's just not much air to complete him on. So between that, he's so ball conscious, you know, whether it's the interceptions or the forced fumbles, he's doing a tremendous job there. Yeah, and I'd say in this case with Jonah, it's one of the more impressive games that I've seen him play. I just went back and watched a couple more of those runs, and you know, in the second half we run a trap, I think on 2nd and long, and he absolutely bulldozes the 3 technique. One of my favorite clips of the day. And then you know, Monungai, I think it was right after the tush push fumble, Monungai's 30-something yard carry. I think Jonah took his guy for a ride on that one as well. So you know, those guys are playing really good football right now that we're going to need really the next 5 games also.
You mentioned Monungai, and with all those backs available in the draft, watching them come off the board, there's always a player, though, and inside a building that scouts love, coaches love, you hope to get no matter the round. I don't know if that was the backstory on Kyle Monungai, but I don't know how he was the 22nd running back drafted.
Yeah, no, I think shame on us for letting him last that long. You know, we should have grabbed him earlier in the draft as far as I'm concerned, seeing the type of player that he's been. You know, I think a lot of teams are probably a little bit off on their evaluation of him. He's something else. You know, he just continues to get better. We talked about the trust level that the coaching staff has with him as for such a young player. You know, the things that people don't see. They look at the rushing stats. I got it, but at the end of the game, there, I think there was that last fourth down that we had a little miscommunication. We didn't hook up on, and yet you turn on that protection, and what you'll notice is Philly was in a 6-man front, and we had a 6-man protection. Well, we had matched up Kyle with one of their defensive end / outside linebackers. I think it was Jalen Phillips, and he didn't bat an eye. He went up, he met it, and I mean, you talk about a forceful blow there. You could tell Phillips felt it a little bit, and so it's the things like that that us as a coaching staff we really appreciate.
Final numbers in the run game: 47 for 281, 6.0. But I added up all the first down rushing: 24 for 169, 704 a carry on first down. Monungai was 13 of 96, 738. Swift 10 for 63, 630, and you had the DJ end around for 10, all on first down. What did that do for you as a play caller?
No, it opens everything up. Certainly when we weren't throwing the ball as efficiently as we'd like, we needed that. We needed that to be able to move it and score the points that we did. And so that was huge for us because, I thought it was really fantastic in terms of how they were able to displace the line of scrimmage, and it took all 11 players on the field to get that job done.
So you like working outside, no matter what the situation. How does that prepare you for December now? It's going to be 21 for a high. It'll drop out the course of the game at Lambeau on Sunday.
Yeah, this is bear weather. This is what we're going to thrive in. It doesn't feel great in the moment when we're out there practicing in it, and yet I do think the guys acknowledge that it gives us a little bit of an edge, and it's who we are. So we got to continue to develop that mindset.
Yeah, I've been a part of this for some 3 decades, but the change in the work week schedule, I've never seen a Wednesday off. I realize we had one a couple weeks back, but what's the thinking about it? Is there a science, the exercise science component to you, or you just got a feel for the team and what they've been through?
No, I've been a part of this in the past where you have a long week of preparation, and rather than doing the normal call it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice here, we're just going to split it up a little bit and give the player day off in between. It allows us as a coaching staff to get the information to the guys earlier so that they can really saturate in that information and execute it. And then it allows us to grab just a couple more reps over the course of practice as well, knowing that we got our rest day, kind of splitting it all up.
And you did allude to the environment in Philly is unique with that fan base. They're highly charged. That'll be the case at Lambeau as well. How advantageous was it that you got that out of the way in Philly to set you up for the next phase?
Yeah, no, I think there's something to be said when you're a tight-knit group like we are, that you go on the road and it's not your backs against the wall, but it's kind of that us versus everybody, mentality. And we're all we got. We got to lean into each other, and I think that's where all 3 phases, we got to complement each other here in this game so that, we continue to provide energy, because it's not going to come from the fans. We got to feed off of that.
Would you say the screen game is rapidly weaponizing the offense, and or is that still somewhere that you want to continue to explore?
Well,
and how vital is it, honestly?
That was something we talked about over the course of the bye week. I do think since the bye, we have been better than the first 4 weeks, but it is still a little bit hit or miss, and I probably went into that box 1 or 2 too many times there the other day, but I had a lot of respect there for their pass rush, and it was one of those deals where we weren't going to be able to throw the ball down the field a whole lot just with the wind going the direction we were going, and so. No, I think the guys are doing a good job understanding the landmarks and the timing with it. That's a tool that we don't want to overutilize or defenses pick up on pretty quick.
Yeah, because outside linebackers with length and everything, obviously it happened in that game with Jalix Hunt, but I saw a game last night too with the 2-point conversion try at the end of the game, a free runner. Just try to get some more height on the ball? Is that the coaching point?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about on our screens, we talk about dart throws, free throw throws, and dirt it throws. And you always prefer to dart it so that it gets to the pass catcher as fast as you can. But if there's somebody in between, you got to put a little bit more air under it, like a free throw. And the one we had in the game that was picked off, we just needed to put a little bit more air under it.
Is there, in your opinion, any advantage or disadvantage playing a divisional opponent this late in the season for the first time? Or does it matter?
No, I don't think it really matters. They've got a lot of the same coaches that they had a year ago, and so there's a lot of tape at this point that both sides will be able to look at, and it's going to come down to both teams have some key players out still with injuries. I think they just lost one of their D tackles last week, and so that all plays a factor into it, but. It's a big game. It's a big game right now for both teams.
Last question, and it's just a little bit of a sneak peek, but I guess I'm revolving around Michael Parsons and an already fast defense. Is this what you're seeing? It is a dangerous group.
I think this is an elite unit, and I'm not afraid to throw that word out there because when you look at them playing at Lambeau for 6 games this season, they're only giving up 13.5 points a game, and they're giving up 241 yards a game. And I would think that would put them at the top of the league if you just look at those two numbers. So this will be a big test for us here this week.
All right, good luck. Thank you again.
Yep, thank you.
What kind of notes did you take from Coach?
I think the appreciation for the specific successes in the blocking of the running game. When he talked about Jonah a couple times and what big blocks he had, whether he's trap blocking or double teaming. And then you think about some of the blocks that the wide receivers were involved in and how important and instrumental they are for the big play, the 23-yard runs, the 17-yard runs, the majority of runs that you brought up the numbers on first downs. Just that whole ability to control a 60-minute football game when your first focus is on running the ball and how it fits into the throwing the ball. And so I'm, was excited to watch the game in person, but it's always neat because, usually you talk to Ben on Monday after playing a Sunday game. Now you talk to Ben on Monday after playing a Friday game. So he has a little bit more time to digest what happened last Friday. And whether you're talking about the screen game or you're talking about the running game or, the big picture of blocking on the line of scrimmage and how it relates to the blocking by the wide receivers, I think it's all neat. Because as you mentioned a couple minutes ago, the foundation of this football team is running the ball.
And I thought it was interesting that he wanted to go back to the Pittsburgh game too, because they didn't get to it because of a short week. So he wanted to clean up some stuff. And I think it has to do by and large with the passing game. He was very pointed in his news conference with the media on Monday saying, we're not running our routes with precision. Depth of route is off. You got to, and that's always a big thing, Some coordinators say, hey, it's not the quarterback's fault. It's if the receiver isn't there, it's on you. You got to get there, or whatever the case may be. But that is an area that is definitely recognized by Ben as an area that needs to improve.
Oh, it's got to be exact.
Yeah.
You got to be able to be so precise in your route running that if you just went through, had some fun in practice and you blindfolded the quarterback and you say, okay, this is going to be your drop step and this is where I want you to release the ball to, you should get it into the vicinity of that receiver. And so that's how, accurate you have to be with your feet in order to run a route perfectly.
Even though Caleb's arm is, he's got a howitzer, man. That thing has RPM on it, no question. So it was a windy day, though, and it did affect the football, even in, obviously in the kicking game. Certainly, as you were going south to north at that stadium. But do you think a game like that, when you got to figure it out as a quarterback on how much mustard you need to throw on it, how hard you have to spin it, and have the wind not ruin the direction of the pass or the timing with these games coming up? Because they're all outdoors. We have no idea what the weather's going to be each week. We know it's going to be cold and it's going to drop temperatures by the time nightfall in Green Bay. It's going to be cold. I don't know what the wind will be, but do you think that'll help Caleb?
100%. There was no panic in anybody when, there may have been a little bit of off target to a pass. Go back to the one, I think it was third and medium and DeAndre Swift was out, but then Caleb reacted to Cole Kmet's route and then ended up throwing him a touchdown. Because that's kind of evidence of exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, the design of the play was to go to DeAndre Swift with maybe a 5-yard pass for the first down. But Caleb saw Cole Kmet, knew that he was behind the defensive back, and he also had the entire end zone to work with. So then he throws a nice lofted pass, just like that lofted pass to DJ Moore. So whatever the conditions are, whether it's a snowstorm that is affecting the sight line or the wind that's affecting the flight of the ball, I don't think that they lose confidence in it. It's just, sometimes you got to go back to the line of scrimmage and snap the ball again.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? Well, with the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. We haven't even talked about the defense yet, and they deserve their flowers as well because They took away Saquon Barkley. He had 9 rushing attempts on first down for the bulk of his yardage. He had a handful of other runs. They had very few plays to get him incorporated in it and getting him into a lather. They defended Jalen Hurts very well, turned him over, which is hard to do, did the tush-push stop. That was a key play in the game. And just the rotation of defensive backs that Dennis Allen used them all and used them to his benefit. Based on down and distance, and got guys their rest as well on top of it. Not that they had to face many reps overall in the game, but what'd you think of that orchestration by a former defensive back himself? Knows how to use defensive backs.
Well, this is what I'm super impressed with. I think over the last 4 or 5 weeks, Dennis Allen has got to understand the versatility of his defensive line. He knows how to use them with down and distance, how to use size and speed. And I think it's really benefited that whole group of guys to making sure that group, most importantly, is fresh according to the defense called and what you're trying to get out of them. Then you go back to the third level. You go back to the defensive backs. They got back Kyler Gordon. They got back Jalen Johnson. They've got experience with guys that you didn't know how they were going to work into the lineup and when the season all started. And then Dennis and the defensive back coaches, Al Harris and all the guys, they had all these guys ready to go out there and play, be in and out of the lineup, play different down at distances, play different spots on the field. But what impressed me most is the linebacker position. You got no TJ Edwards, you got no Tremaine Edmonds, you got no Noah Sewell. So you have a variety of players you can put on the third level, and you're using the versatility of the first level, but then you got that second level guys that are holding down the fort. And Agbanbamiga or Jackson or whomever you want in there to play, those guys have stepped up to the plate and should get equally as complimented as first level and third level. So kudos to all the coaches to making sure who's ever in the game, they're mentally and physically ready.
Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. All right, so the identity has taken shape. We're in the back end of the season for the most important stretch run. Ben is not budging from what he has always stated. The next big game is the game in front of you. He did call it a big game for both teams. Bears-Packers, understands the significance, understands that they're going to do whatever it takes to win one game. But, again, the national attention, the national focus is going to ratchet up. Everybody in that locker room is going to hear it. They're going to see it. They're going to see more media. It's going to see more national attention. How do you compartmentalize as a player when you have elevated your whole persona because of what's gone on in the first 13 weeks of the season?
One thing is you haven't focused on the Green Bay Packers this year. Yeah, you saw him in some clips in your preparation for different opponents throughout the course of the season, but you weren't preparing for the Green Bay Packers. Now, if you're a left tackle, you're sitting down and you're watching what challenges are in front of you. If you're a middle linebacker, you're looking at the challenges that are in front of you. So now you're starting to study the Green Bay Packers for the first time this season. This isn't a team that you've played already like the Detroit Lions or the Vikings or the other divisional teams. This is this far into the season. You're playing these guys for the first time. So you're not going to have to, be encouraged to pay attention. You're going to have to pay attention. And it's the way that Ben, starts putting in the offensive game plan, what Dennis Allen sees in terms of defense use of personnel against their personnel. So it's about commitment to the week, because this is a new week. It's not necessarily just the new game, but it's a new week against an opponent that you haven't seen yet. And Ben knows the environment in Lambeau. Shoot, he's been there a bunch of times with Detroit and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the significance of that versus, say, a first-time head coach that has not been a part of the rivalry? He's been a part of the rivalry from a Lions perspective, but he knows where, that whole term. He knows where all the bones are buried.
Right, but it's not the shock factor.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh my God, look at this atmosphere. This is louder than anything I've ever heard in my life. He's been in the loudest atmosphere created in the NFL in the last 5 years, and that's the games at Detroit, and we've seen it. But we've been a part of this rivalry games in Green Bay, and we know how loud it gets. So Ben isn't going to go out there and go, oh my gosh. Al Harris isn't going to go out there and go, oh my gosh. If Antoine, all these guys, they know what it's like in there, and they know and how to get ready for it in the week's preparation.
Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. All right, let's go into it a little bit. Let's start on offense first. The Bears facing Jordan Love. A lot of respect for his accuracy throwing the football from Ben. He also has much respect for Josh Jacobs running the football, and the speed at receiver that can take the top off the defense. All those things highlighted. What are you seeing in the down and dirty grittiness of the Green Bay Packers, especially up front on the offensive line, and where the Bears can maybe take advantage of some things, or what they have to be careful of?
I think they have some vulnerabilities up front. And I think with the skill players that the Bears have, whether you're talking about a Montez Sweat or an Austin Booker, I think both of those guys are playing at a high level at that position, both in the run game and the passing game. So if you can isolate those guys, one out of the two of them, in some heavy-duty pass responsibilities, you should be able to get some pressure onto the quarterback. It doesn't necessarily have to result in a sack, but if you can put him in a retreat position, if you can affect his fundamental throwing position, maybe you can create those inaccuracies. And I do think when we talk about the third-level defenders for the Bears and how you can line them up and how you can use them, from Gardner Johnson, from Kyler, from Jaquan Brisker to Byard for that matter, I do think they can rush with athleticism. And I think that's a key ingredient, is when you're rushing a good athlete at quarterback. Because if you can put multiple athletes at the line of scrimmage and one of them gets away or one of them is set free, they have the speed and the athleticism to match up with the quarterback to either result in a sack or make his throwing uncomfortable. So I just think that Dennis Allen, he's got deployable assets, to use your word, that it can affect the way you approach aggressive defense.
So Ben calls the Packer defense elite. He says it'll be the toughest defense they've faced yet this year. Micah Parsons added to that bunch, 12.5 sacks. Again, you got to figure out where he is. He's got the freedom to go where he wants, I guess, within the framework of Jeff Hafley's defense. They have lost Devontae Wyatt for the season with an ankle injury, so that's important. He was having a good year, former first-round pick, so it thins out their front a little bit. And then they've got a lot of speed at linebacker. They have really elevated their speed defensively. Is that showing up on tape, in your opinion?
It is. It shows up because Myles Garrett, where he's going to line up. He's going to line up against the left tackle. Reggie White, back in the day, you knew that he was going to line up against the right tackle. All these other guys that are great football players, Aaron Donald and such, you knew where they were going to line up so you could formulate your pass blocking plan accordingly. You don't know that about Micah Parsons. So depending upon where Micah Parsons lines up, that speed is even more evident by the linebacker position. So if you have to invest more bodies in making sure that you're aware of Micah Parsons, maybe sometimes there's a winnable matchup for one of those speeding linebackers in the running game or in the passing game. So it's going to be about just a really well put together, well designed game plan that puts the Bears' assets in a quicker position, and that's either point of attack running game or their involvement in the passing game, just because Micah Parsons is not as, he's not going to be in the same place every time.
I didn't get a chance to ask Ben this, but playing the Packers twice in 3 weeks, and then the possibility, as he's not going to look forward, but we have the luxury to do so a little bit, that you might have to play him again in the playoffs in such a small time frame. Are there benefits or negatives to that for the Bears, or is it just not important?
I think there are benefits to it, especially if you go out and you recognize, okay, this really didn't go so well the first time around. So do you wash it or do you improve it? And then, okay, if I wash it, then what do I insert in place of that? And so there are different formulas of putting together your attack against an opponent when you play them in so close increments of time that what's worked for you and what maybe you want to get rid of. And the things that work for you, they are repeatable in different formations, different motions, different down and distances, but you can still, understand that they're a positive for you.
Can you even, in your mind, okay, we're going to play right-handed the first time, we're going to play left-handed the second time. You pick what I'm saying is
yeah.
Do you have 2 separate game plans ready in your mind's eye?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Listen, man, in Ben we trust.
Yeah.
Because it's some of the most creative play calling and play design that I've ever seen in all of my life in football. Whether you want to go back to run and shoot and Mouse Davis, you want to go to the K-gun offense and the Buffalo Bills, you want to go to Air Coryell, whoever generation, whatever person you want to talk about that has a play development reputation. Right now, I'm seeing some of the best I've ever seen in my life.
Good news, Chicago United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. Don't take lightly, if you're listening to this, what Tom just said. Tom is not one to send out clicks out there with his words. It's meaningful, and he's seen just about everything in a football life. You put a smile on my face with that, because we're finally talking about somebody like that in this franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you, that's what I think when I say I encourage people, if they have access to watching these games again, go back and watch them again. Watch a series, watch a portion of the game, because you're seeing, I was talking to somebody today, and we were talking about a double team block between 2 offensive linemen, because I was haunted watching the Super Bowl shuffle make that they did for HBO. They showed the second play of the game where I made a bad block, and that's the reason Walter Payton fumbled, and it still haunts me to this day.
Oh,
but,
no.
When you talk about a double team block is about the 2 offensive linemen only making contact with the defensive lineman. It's not overlapping and hitting each other. Then you make the whole block dysfunctional. And you look at how perfect these double team blocks are, and how they're taking a guy like Jalen Carter and pushing him 5 to 6 yards back into the path of the second level linebacker, and also taking out a DB. It's just, when you're looking at how well done these blocks are being made, the reason you run for 281 yards is because of how perfectly fitting these offensive linemen are at the line of scrimmage.
Wide swaths of green grass, Tom.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
Washing guys out.
Completely. Washing guys out, but they're getting other guys caught up in the wash. So if you're going to have a double team block, you don't necessarily have to get off and then go up to the second line. If you can push him off the line of scrimmage and never leave him and then take out that second level guy, that's as beautiful block as you can ever see performed by offensive linemen.
One of the things that I heard you say so many times over these 3 decades is, one thing that really bothered you, running into blocking each other. Yeah. It just didn't make any sense to you.
And I learned that from Jay Hilgenberg, because if we had a double team block that we called an ace block, and if I would have any contact with him at all, he would look at me don't touch me.
Yeah.
And so it was just a reminder. It didn't happen that often, and that's the way it works.
Well, what's an ace block? What is it?
An ace block is if Jay's at center and I'm at the right guard, and we have a nose guard over the top of Jay. So we're going to double team that guy into that backside linebacker. So then we push at that angle, and as we're pushing that guy, we're both reading that linebacker. If he flows over the top, I come off. If he flows underneath, I stay on the nose guard and Jay comes off. But if you get that dominating double team and you push that guy right into that linebacker, no one comes off.
Well, that was one play with all the other pieces involved here, tight ends, whatever. There were 3 duo blocks on one rep. 3.
So we had an ace block was over the nose. A duo was over the guard. A tri block was over the tackle. So ace, deuce, tray.
Interesting.
And so that's the way that was our vocabulary.
All right. So, I thought I'd get a bit of an edgy Tom this morning. I think you're okay. It's still early in the week. They haven't even hit the practice field yet, right? So, but I know that your juices get stirred up.
Like you said, they were in the fourth quarter of the Philly game.
End of third quarter.
I felt that the Bears were going to win that game, and I was already on to next week. And so, this is Packer week. There's nothing like it.
And I think George McCaskey, the Bears chairman, is going to talk to the rookies this week about the rivalry and what it means to this franchise. Also, this aside, since week 5, the Bears have the number 1 offense in the NFL and the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL.
Best offensive line in the league right now.
Tom, talk to you later in the week. All right, that's going to wrap us up for Bears head coach Ben Johnson and Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now to the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.